Welcome back, Cyber Explorers. It's Alfie, and in this video we'll explore together with this step-by-step guide, how to install Linux Fedora Workstation 41, separate disk, standalone. So without further ado, let's get right into it. First, let's clarify the title. Separate disk means that we will install Fedora Linux on its own disk. So get your disk ready and ensure you don't need anything on that disk because it will be formatted. Standalone means there will be no other operating system connected to the PC during the Fedora installation process. So if you want to install Fedora this way, and you have a Windows installation on the PC already, disconnect the Windows disk. After you finish the Fedora installation, reconnect the Windows disk, and you will be able to switch between the systems, Windows and Fedora Linux, from the boot menu, or from the BIOS or UEFI or other ways. This way, we ensure that the grub bootloader will be installed on the Fedora disk and not on the Windows disk. Second, you will need a Fedora 41 installation media, such as a Fedora 41 bootable USB drive. Our video on how to create a Linux Fedora bootable USB drive with Rufus might help you. The link is in the description below. Third, you will need to insert the USB drive into the computer, then restart the PC and access the BIOS or UEFI. Adjust the boot priority to boot from the USB drive, or you can enter the boot menu and boot from the USB drive directly. Our video on how to boot from a USB drive might help you. The link is in the description below. When you first boot from the Fedora Linux installation media, choose Start Fedora Workstation. If you want to ensure the integrity of the installation media, select Test this media and Start Fedora Workstation. This option will check for any issues with the media before starting Fedora. You can try Fedora if you want, or you can click on Install Fedora. If you clicked on Not Now and later want to install Fedora, you can click on the Install to Hard Drive icon to start the installation. At the Welcome to Fedora screen, choose your language and click Continue. Then in the Localization section, click on Keyboard to select your keyboard layout and click Done. Next, click on Time and Date to select your time zone and click Done. In the System section, click on Installation Destination to partition the disk. As mentioned, we will be installing Fedora Linux on its own disk. Note that disks in Linux will appear as SDA, SDB, etc. or NVMe0N1, NVMe1N1, etc., and partitions will show as SDAE1, SDAE2, etc., or NVMe0N1P1, NVMe0N1P2, etc. In the Local Standard Disk section, select the disk you want to install Fedora on. Be aware that Fedora uses BTRFS, B-tree file system, as the default file system. In the Storage Configuration section, choose Automatic and click Done. Then click Begin Installation, and Fedora will partition the disk automatically. Alternatively, choose Custom, Manual, and click Done to partition the disk manually. If you have a used disk, you might see a few existing partitions. Select each partition one by one and click on the minus icon to delete them. The easiest partitioning scheme on a non-GPT disk is simply a root partition and a swap partition. Note, the swap partition is not required. You can use a swap file instead, as Fedora Linux uses a swap file by default. If the disk is GPT type, you must also add a BIOS boot or an EFI partition, depending on the boot mode of your BIOS, Legacy BIOS, or UEFI. If you are planning to create a swap partition, then allocate the system partition with max size minus swap size. The swap partition should be the same size as your RAM, or double it if you have low RAM. As we mentioned, Fedora uses BTRFS as the default file system. If you want to use ext for example, you can select the standard partition option from the partition scheme section. Now click on the plus icon to create the first partition, which is the UEFI system partition. Set the mount point at boot UEFI, choose the partition size, and click on Add Mount Point. Then click on the plus icon to create the second partition, which is the root partition. Set the mount point at / or root, choose the partition size, and click on Add Mount Point. If you want to create a swap partition, click on the plus icon to create the third partition, which is the swap partition. Set the mount point at swap, choose the partition size, and click on Add Mount Point. Keep in mind that you can select the partition and change its settings from the right side. For example, you can select the root partition to change its file system from the device type option if you prefer. Then click on Done, review your choices, and click on Accept Changes. Finally, click on Begin Installation, and wait until it's done. Talk to you then. After the installation is complete, click on Finish Installation, then restart the system to complete some steps. After your system restarts, click on Start Setup and disable the location and problem reporting if you prefer, then click on Next. Enable the third-party repositories and click on Next. Now enter your name and username and click on Next, then enter a password for your account and click on Next. Finally, click on Start using Fedora Linux. And that's it for today. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and don't forget to activate the notification bell so you won't miss out on any new uploads. Thank you for watching. Until next time, see you later.